It would be easy for people to dismiss this as just another video game adaptation, because we all know how those usually go. But much to my surprise, Gran Turismo the movie was so much more than that. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
Come on. Do it. Do it!
Gran Turismo follows a player who wins a series of Nissan-sponsored video game competitions through his gaming skills and becomes a real-life professional race car driver. What do I always say about video game adaptations and why they almost never work? It's typically because Hollywood tries to reinvent the wheel in some aspects, and they feel the need to change a lot of the things that made the video game popular in the first place.
Why are you the way that you are?
So what you are typically left with in the final product isn't familiar enough to attract gamers, and it's not something that's appealing enough to attract general audiences. Gran Turismo manages to sidestep those landmines and bring us a video game to the big screen in a very different way. This is based on a true story, and it puts one of those gamers that Hollywood typically overlooks at center stage.
No way! Yes way!
Now, early in this movie, I'd say the first 30 minutes or so was a lot of setup. And I was feeling pretty underwhelmed by the film initially, and I felt like they were just breezing through a lot of things that they probably should have spent more time on. The character's journey initially felt very rushed, going from simulator to real-life racing. But as the movie progressed, I realized that there was so much more story to be told. And come to find out, his biggest challenges would come once he obtains his dream, but then he has to follow through on it. He has to step up.
I gotta catch a glimpse of these warlocks. Let's make a move.
Once you get to the actual professional racing parts, this whole film switches gears, pun intended. And what you are in for is a classic underdog story, which of course we've seen a million times before. But as I always say, it doesn't matter if certain aspects of the story come off a bit cliche, because those classic tropes do still work when they are properly utilized.
How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
When you have talented writers, actors, and directors who are still able to reel you into the story they are trying to tell. I mean, that is on a very basic level what storytelling and filmmaking is all about. And this story does hit a lot of somewhat familiar beats. We have our underdog character who is out of his element and doesn't have everything figured out yet. And he faces a lot of setbacks along the way that will test him mentally and physically.
Don't have to take this abuse much longer.
I mean, we have the father character who doesn't support his dream because he doesn't understand his son's obsession with the game to begin with. You have the coach character who is also rough on him because he actually comes from the racing world, and he kind of looks down again on this character who got this opportunity because he plays video games. And he just doesn't totally buy in to this kid's potential initially.
Not impressed.
Basically, the entire racing world is doubting this kid and his skills because of where he came from. And all of this is covered and addressed so well in the film that you can't help but pull for him. This movie is significantly more emotional than it had any business being. I experienced all kinds of highs and lows while watching this, which is exactly what a good movie is supposed to do.
I'm in a glass case of emotion.
I bought into this journey and I was locked in for the entire runtime. Shout out to all the actors, specifically David Harbour, who in my opinion is the standout of this film. He just plays the reluctant mentor character so well, as we've seen from his time on Stranger Things as Hopper. But he's just one of those actors who has this great balance of tough guy mixed with a little bit of vulnerability, and I think it just makes his character stand out and also makes them very likable. And I actually really enjoyed the banter that he's dishing out towards the gamers early in the film, who he's showing a bit of tough love to as he's trying to mold them into real life racers.
You're less than nothing. What's keeping you here?
I also enjoyed the lead actor, Archie Madekwe. I think that's how you say it. He was able to go through such a range of emotions that's not typical for an actor who's so young and for a movie like this. A big shout out is also in order for director Neil Blomkamp, who literally directed his ass off in this movie, specifically in the racing sequences.
He's good. With my help, he could be the best.
Which in my mind are some of the best action sequences that I can remember in modern films. Just the way that he relays the intensity of driving at such fast speeds, a situation where one wrong move could literally lead to disaster. You just feel the tension and excitement in every turn. There's just something special about racing sequences. When they are filmed right, they just always work. And these sequences in particular felt very authentic, very realistic, and that definitely helped me to care about what was going on. And he just brings them to life with the utmost precision. There's also some cool moments for fans of the game, which I appreciated, being someone who actually grew up playing Gran Turismo. And these nods aren't done in a cheesy way like we typically see in modern Hollywood.
Jesus Christ, it's about time!
It's little things they use, like the sound effects for the race starting lights. And there's one scene where a car is taken apart digitally, and you see all the different parts that went into creating it. It's a nice little touch considering building cars is a huge part of the game. You get the feeling that the creators of Gran Turismo, as well as the real life people that all of the actors are portraying, had a big input on how this movie turned out. Imagine that, a movie that respects the source material. It's rare in this day and age, but it does happen.
I don't believe it!
Even with all the action and all the video game stuff, which is great, I truly believe that this movie's greatest strength is the relationships between the characters. Being a fairly new father myself, I'm a sucker for a father-son dynamic in a film. And in this film, I think that dynamic is handled very well. And there's even a father-son dynamic between the driver and his coach. I just think that these inspirational stories, something that Hollywood doesn't do as much as they used to, still work. And I think we need more stories like this about people living out their dreams despite the odds being stacked against them. There is something that will always be relatable about stories like that.
That makes sense.
Overall, as you can tell, I really enjoyed Gran Turismo, even though the first half hour or so did drag a little bit for me, and there are moments throughout where things get a little bit cliche. I still feel like Gran Turismo is a welcome return of the underdog story, is well crafted, and serves as a crowd pleaser in every sense of the word. I think both fans of the games and general audiences will be able to get something out of this movie because of its reliance on reliable old-school filmmaking techniques. And that's why I'm going to give Gran Turismo the pleased Palpatine.
Good.
Y'all be cool. Right on.